It is really a long-awaited thing which is happening today. We were planning it for long, and now it has become possible that we are organizing this 3-day FDP on research, and it's being organized by RIM. RIM is Research and Innovation in Media, which is a research body of DME Media School. Delhi Metropolitan Education has number of research bodies because the institute puts a lot of emphasis on research. So there are three schools: DME Media School, DME Law School, and DME Management School, and every school has more than one research body. So RIM is the research body of Delhi Media School, and we are delighted that RIM is taking up this FDP, and this is being attended by the faculty members of all the three schools and also the faculty members from other institutions. So I welcome all those who have enrolled for participation in this FDP. And regarding this organizing those whole FDP, this credit goes to Mr. Pramod Kumar Gupta, who took initiative in organizing this, and Professor Sarsanwal, who is a veteran in media research, or rather the social science research. I have been hearing about him so much, and it is really to our pleasure that he is here today for conducting this FDP. So I welcome Professor Sarsanwal, Mr. Pramod Kumar Gupta, and all those faculty members who are here in this session for participation. And I announce this FDP open. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to call upon Dr. Pramod Kumar Gupta, co-convener of this FDP, to deliver his message.
Thank you, Mudita ma'am. A warm welcome to all participants and Dr. D.N. Sansanwal sir and Dr. Ambarish Saxena sir. We have organized for this program with Delhi Metropolitan Media School, Delhi, and I am inviting Dr. D.N. Sansanwal sir for today's program. Welcome, sir.
Sir, our guest today is Dr. D.N. Sansanwal. Sir is the former HOD and Dean SOE, DAVV Indore. He has an expertise in research, SPSS, and advanced educational statistics. Today, Sir will be enlightening us about content analysis. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you can see this particular blank sheet.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, dear friends, as I have been introduced, I am D.N. Sansanwal, and my email address is something like this. It is dnsansanwal@email.com. Please, it is not Gmail, it is email.com. Now, before I start, I just like to say a few things. Number one, I expect all of you to have a very clear idea about what is research. I will not talk about what is research. I also expect you to understand the variables. And I think you know that it is the variable that is very, very, very important in research. Whatever is the research you are conducting in any subject area, it doesn't matter. But there has to be a variable. And each subject has specific names of the variables. Some of the names might be common here, there is all right. For example, achievement. It is achievement, maybe mathematics, maybe journalism, maybe education, maybe psychology, maybe computer, maybe anywhere, but it's achievement. So the variable is very, very, very important, because when you go to the other aspect, it is the variable that will help you to decide what you should do. The next, I will presume that all of you know the steps of research. Okay, and when I talk about the content analysis, this is the part of one particular step. Let me quickly tell you, the steps are identification of problem. The second step will be only in the quantitative research. If you are not doing quantitative research, the second step will not be there. And if you are doing the quantitative research, then the second step is formulation of hypothesis. But wherever this step is not there, then the second step will be, because this step may be optional. It is optional in those researches where you have only the qualitative information. Then the formulation of hypothesis will not be there. So I am just putting it, the red mark, so that you understand it, that this is optional. Then the third step, in some cases, it will be the third step, but in some of the researches, it will be the second step, and that is what is data collection. Okay, and when it comes to the data collection, then after that, it is the data analysis. So the today's topic, it belongs to the data analysis, because you can have the two types of the data. Many of the people, they give a wrong name, but I don't know whether I can ask question or not. Can any one of you tell me what are the types of the data? You can unmute yourself and you can answer my question if you want.
The primary
Sir,
and
qualitative and
Okay.
qualitative data and quantitative data, sir.
Yes. Any other one?
The primary data and secondary data.
That's right. That is what
Sir, qualitative data and quantitative data.
Yes, that is correct. But the other response which came
is primary and secondary data.
not the data. Primary is a source and secondary is a source. And many of the Indian writers in their books, I do not want to name, they have written that the data are of two types. One is primary, other is secondary. It is technically incorrect. So please understand, the data cannot be primary. Primary is a source. Secondary is a source. When you are listening to me, then you are listening to the primary source. But if you read the book written by Mr. X and he has quoted Mr. Y, then you are reading Mr. Y through Mr. X, that's a secondary source. So please, the data will be what the first respondent said. Data will be only of two types. One is a qualitative data and another will be the quantitative data. These are the two types of the data. The source may be primary or the source may be secondary. That is a different issue. But important is the sources are only the primary source and the secondary source, but type of data will be, it is either the qualitative data or the quantitative data. Next important point you should understand it, that when you have it, the data, then you should know the scales. They call scales of measurement. Because without understanding the scales of measurement, you will not be able to understand many of the concepts. And in the qualitative data, the scale of measurement is the nominal scale. Because you can find out that how many people have said this particular thing. Then you can count, and that data will be on the nominal scale. If the organizer, they want to know how many people are attending this webinar, then they can count. And the count on my computer, it is 53. So that means 53 people are attending this webinar, and the 53, the number which I am giving, it is on the nominal scale data. So the qualitative data will be always of the nominal scale. If I find out that out of 52, how many are males and how many are females, again I will get the numbers. And these numbers you are getting just by counting. And the count comes on my screen. It is for the total. I do not know how many are teachers and how many are research fellows. If I do that, that also will be the data on the nominal scale. The another scale is ordinal, then another is interval. Let me tell you all that. So one is a nominal scale, another is the ordinal scale. Ordinal scale means when you arrange certain things in some sequence. Say if there is a handwriting, you can arrange the handwriting in a particular sequence depending upon what characteristics you consider at the time of putting them in some sequence. And that is the order, the sequence. So nominal scale has got only the counts, or you can say frequency. And another is the ordinal. Ordinal means where you have an order, or you can give rank, or you can put in sequence. Another is the interval scale. Interval scale has got a reference point and intervals are of equal length. For example, if you want to take the length of your table, you can use the scale, and scale has got a 0 point. There is a mark where it is written 0, that is the starting point. Now, if you want to measure the length of your table, you can put the scale from 0, that may be starting point, or 5 may be the starting point. Then 5 becomes 0. So therefore, there it is not compulsory that you have to always start measuring the length or the width, whatever it from the 0. No, you may start from anywhere. Another is a ratio scale. And the ratio scale, there is a fixed 0. Or you can say fixed reference point. Fixed 0 or fixed reference point. For example, the day you were born, that was the starting point. So whenever somebody has to calculate the age, he has to start counting from that particular day on which the person was born. So that is a fixed reference point, and ratios are equal. Anyway, I'm not going to tell more than that. But one thing I can tell, that the nominal scale data is the lowest level data that can be generated, and this is the weakest data. The highest is either it is the interval scale data or the ratio scale data. They are considered to be the strong data. But data on the nominal scale and ordinal scale are not very strong. They are weak data. So, but in quantitative, you can have on anyone, but qualitative, the most of your data will be only on the nominal scale. And whenever you have nominal scale data, you can always find out the percentages. Or there is one more statistics you can use, but it is not very strong. So that is the, I think I should tell these things first, and then we proceed further. So if you are conducting a purely the quantitative research, then your steps number 1 will be identification of problem, qualitative research. Second will be data collection, and third will be data analysis. And the fourth will be your finding. Okay. Now, dear friends, before I proceed further, I just like to take your opinion that when we go to the content analysis, so content analysis is the data analysis part. Now there are in content analysis, you have 3 aspects. One, you want to just analyze the content. Second is, do you want to do the conceptual analysis of the content? And the third is, do you want to see the relational analysis of the content? So one is simple content analysis, another is conceptual content analysis, another is relational content analysis. No, I do not know whether you want me to discuss all the 3 or you want me to discuss only the content analysis. I like to have your reaction on that. Then I will start. I will write for you. One is content analysis. Then another is conceptual. And another is relational.
Sir, I think you can touch all the 3 aspects.
I touch all the 3?
Yes, sir, that would be so nice.
All right. Thank you very much. But then, my dear friend, I may require more time then. That is the only problem, because the time. But nevertheless, I will start. So now I go to my PPT so that it is easy, and you can side by side keep on noting down. Yes, go ahead. All right. So dear friends, you know I am Sansanwal. This is my email address, and I will talk now about the content analysis. The sequence in which I am going to make this presentation is: number one, I will tell you what exactly is a content analysis. I hope majority of you know, but still I thought let me tell you. Another is the objectives of the content analysis. The third is the uses of the content analysis. The next, the steps of the content analysis. And there will be 5 steps of the content analysis. So I will describe what are those and etc. Then next, I will tell you the types of text in the content analysis, because that is very important. Next is the types of the content analysis I will tell you. Next is essentials of the content analysis. After that, I will tell you, because in content analysis, coding is very important. And dear friends, of course, when I will explain, I will tell you that these days people do use computers because there are softwares available. Of course, I will not be able to demonstrate that over here because I do not have the software, it costs. But you can do it. So coding is important. Even otherwise, you are not using computer, still coding is important. Then I will talk about the steps of conducting the conceptual analysis. And then I will talk about the relational analysis and the theoretical influence on the relational analysis, whatever is there. And then there are 3 subcategories of the relational analysis. And then I will tell you at the end the steps of conducting the relational analysis. And after that, I will talk about the advantages of the content analysis and the disadvantages of the content analysis. This is the sequence in which I will like to make a presentation. I don't know, if you want, you can ask question at any point of time you like when I am proceeding further. Now I will be taking some of the examples, and I have tried that I take example from journalism, but sometime I might have taken some general example also. So that is the one. So we first go to what exactly is a content analysis. You know, content analysis is actually a research technique. You can say data analysis technique, no problem at all. Because research, data analysis is a part of a research. So it's a research technique used to make replicable. Please see, this word is very important. Replicable and valid inferences. Whatever information which is not replicable, then of course it's of no use. Then you cannot. So it has to be replicable and valid inferences by interpreting and coding the textual material. And this textual material is which type, etc. I will talk. This is the one way to look at the content analysis. Another is that by systematically evaluating the text, which I said textual material. Textual material means documents, oral communication, graphs, qualitative data, etc. And qualitative data can be converted into the quantitative. That is all right. So therefore, when we are saying the textual material can be your document, can be your oral, can be your the graphs, etc., etc. Now, this method is most frequently used in social sciences, because in social sciences, most of the researches or most of the variables which people take related to the variable or variables, people have the qualitative information. But there are variables where you do not have the qualitative, but you can have a quantitative. Then there, of course, the content analysis will not help you. When you have a quantitative data, then it is the statistical technique that will help you to process the whole one. So therefore, because this content analysis may be a technique which some of the people might be using, and they mostly belongs to the social sciences. Of course, only recently it has become relevant in organization. That's fine, nice, not a problem. Then another is the content analysis is a method. This is another definition for summarizing any form of content by counting various aspects of the content. I told you, when you are count, you are getting the data on the nominal scale. And that is what is done in content analysis. For example, if you want to take the impressions on any program, okay, if you want the expressions of or impressions of the people. Now, when you are asking them, how do you like this particular TV program, or how do you like this particular book, or how do you like this and this and this? Now, that is not a content analysis, because just asking them is not a content analysis. Okay, when you are reviewing a book, or whenever you are reviewing a research paper, reviewing research paper or reviewing a book or reviewing any article is not a content analysis at all. That comes under evaluation. Because when you are reviewing a book, you are evaluating it. Okay, so therefore that is important. We should understand that. Then content analysis often always of written words. If you have spoken, when I'm speaking right at the moment, I don't think that you will be able to do the content analysis of the spoken words because of the speed. And because if you want to analyze, it becomes very difficult. So that is why it has to be the written words, or it may be a graph, or it may be some video, whatever it is, but it has to be that, otherwise it's not. And when we are counting, then it becomes a quantitative one. Okay, But if you want to keep it without counting, it is pure quantitative, it's pure content, only content based. But if you say so many people have said this, if you do not want to make so many, if you said people have said this, then it's only a content part of it. But when you say 50% or 80% or so many percentage, then you are converting it to quantitative. And that one can do. That's not a problem. But it is not quantitative of a high order. It is a low order one. So that's what is content analysis. Then another is the content analysis is very useful in organizational researches. Because in organizational researches, it allows the researcher to recover and examine the nuisance of organizational behavior, stakeholder perception, and societal trend. Because this is possible in, say, when you are organizing this webinar, then if somebody wants to do, provided it is recorded, and I am sure you are recording it. And when you are recording it, then of course that can be analyzed. And then after having analyzed, then after getting this one, then you can think what point you want to keep in mind when you are analyzing that type of thing. So therefore, see, when you are going to see a movie, a lot of people are coming there. Now you can observe their behaviors. When some scenes coming and people are hooting or people are saying, oh, something like that, making noise, you can keep on noting down. And then that, of course, can be done when people are in the marriages, when people are let's say, celebrating the certain festivals, then their behaviors, etc. If festivals are there, how these festivals are organized, you can do the content analysis of that, etc., etc. So that can be the part of the content analysis. And this content analysis, people say that it bridges the gap between purely quantitative and purely qualitative. Because the information which you have got, if it is qualitative, this can be converted into quantitative. And if you don't, you may not convert. For example, in the examination, whenever the student is writing the answer is purely the qualitative information. When the examiner reads the answer, he only gets the qualitative information. But examiner, after reading it, will definitely like to give marks. And if it is a 10 marks question, then the examiner may give 8 marks, may give 3 marks, may give 4 marks. At that point of time, the examiner is converting a qualitative information into quantitative. So therefore, the qualitative information may be converted into quantitative. Okay, that is the one. Then we go to the second point, the objectives. The content analysis is the technique focused on the actual content. Whatever the subject matter you have, that content, and that is what? It is used to determine the presence of what? The words. Is there a particular word which is being used by that particular person number of times? You see, that happens. And you know, I'm sure there is one Hindi word, takya kalam. There are certain words people use quite often, and that is reflected if you happen to listen to them. So therefore, you can find out which word comes how many times. You can also find out the concept. And I'm sure you know the difference between the concepts and the words which people are using. Words will be having meaning, no problem at all. But the concepts are you can say more abstract in as far as the word is concerned. If I say prime number, it is a concept because there can be examples. If I say apple, then apple is not a concept because you do not have example. You can always show me an apple. But if I say fruit, fruit is a concept because you can show me banana, you can show me apple, you can show me pears, you can show me any other thing. So therefore, you know that concept. Another can be some themes. Another can be certain phrases. Another can be certain characters. Okay? Or sentences within the text or set of sentences, and to qualify the presence is in an objective manner. Okay? That is what exactly is the objective of the content analysis. The another, I'm now giving you the example. Suppose you want to study the importance of employment issues in political campaign. You know, whenever there are elections, you always know these politicians, they will be talking. And sometimes the politicians may talk about that if we come in the power, then we will give the employment of the people, etc., etc. Suppose that is the one. Then one can analyze the campaign speech. And when you want to analyze the campaign speech, then you may like to find out that how many times the unemployment, job, work, you know, these words are used. How many times in that speech the person said, talk about the job or talk about the work or talk about the unemployment. And when he is doing that, then you can analyze it, find out how many times that has been done. Okay? And to find the difference over time or between the candidates. That if the speech has been given for 1 hour, in 1 hour, how many times this has come? Or if there are 2 or 3 people are giving these speeches, then you can find out the same words used by another person how many times during. So something like that, that can be done. That is really the objective of doing the content analysis. And if you do not have that, then of course it will be very, very, very difficult having used the content analysis. So that's, then in addition, the content analysis can be used to make qualitative inferences by analyzing the meaning and semantic relationship of the words and the concepts. That's what also we can do in the content analysis. When different words are there, then you can find out whether what are their meanings, why this person has used this particular word in this particular sentence, what he wants to communicate, those type of the things. Of course, I don't know, it might look like to be quite abstract what I'm talking, but I cannot do more than that, dear friends, because in this webinar and the real life, the lectures, face-to-face one, there is a lot of difference. Now, the uses of the content analysis, that the content analysis can be applied to the broad range of the text. Okay, and it is used in variety of fields, including marketing. If somebody is doing a marketing research, you can use it. If in the media, you can use it. In anthropology, it can be used. The content analysis can be used. In the cognitive science, where the qualitative aspect is there, one can use the content analysis. In psychology also, because psychology, you can have the qualitative information. You can observe the behavior of the people. See, when someone is giving a lecture in the class, many of the students, they observe the posture which the teacher is using while standing, how the teacher is standing. The students, they try to observe and they try to even copy many a time. So there are things like this one can do is. And in some of the other subjects also, you can use it. And content analysis is heavily used in literature. If someone wants to work on Mahadevi Verma, then of course, the different books which Mahadevi Verma has written, the articles, etc. You can do the analysis. So these are the few which I have written here, where you can use the content analysis. Say, even in physics, the people are doing a theoretical research. Now that theoretical research, people are not using the content analysis. Because in the theoretical research, it is more of thinking, that people have to think. Okay, so that's not a content analysis. So theoretical research will not be using the content analysis at all. It is the survey type of research which will be using the content analysis. But experimental researches will not use content analysis. Or if you are doing some case study, in the case study, one can use the content analysis. So if you talk about the research, in the philosophical research, one can use content analysis. In historical research, it is possible that you content analysis. In descriptive survey, the content analysis use can be there. But in correlational survey, it is not the use. So you can't use content analysis for correlational survey. So I hope these are the uses. And I think you can ask me question if the organizers, they permit you to unmute yourself and to ask question, no problem. I will rather like to have the question. But if organizers, they do not want you to unmute, then it's a different issue. So organizers, will you be?
Sir, they can unmute and ask questions.
Okay, then if you like, you can tell them that if they want to ask question, they can stop me and ask question.
Yeah, all those who want to ask questions can please go ahead. Kindly unmute yourselves and ask the question, and please mute yourselves back.
Sir, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Sir, can we do the content analysis of newspaper articles?
Yes, why not?
And how can we go about it?
See, you have to decide that when there is a newspaper and there is a news, now when you want to do the content analysis, what is your focus? And that focus you have to decide. Okay, is it you want to do the content analysis of the speech of some politician, or you want to do the content analysis of some incidents have taken place and that is reported in the newspaper? The answer is yes. But then in that particular one, what do you want? Say, for example, that on 26th of January, you know, if you have seen the Times of India, I have seen the first page, second page, almost third page, full of whatever happened on 26th of January with respect to the Kisan, whatever the rally they had. You know, those people who climb and who put the flag, etc. Now, if you report, if you read that particular report, then you have to decide what is your focus. Is your focus is how many people were present? Is your focus that whether the name of the people are there or not? Whether their identities are properly, reflected in that particular news, whatever the news is there, or whether there was a, the security arrangement. So from that news, what exactly you want, that you have to decide. And then you can analyze it, keeping that in the mind. That's not a very, or if you want that what type of words were used which were unparliamentary. If you want to do that, that also can be done, or any other thing. So decision has to be you as a researcher, what you want to do it. Okay, any other question?
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, you just mentioned that the content analysis is always of a written word. It can never be for a spoken. So suppose if we have a group discussion and we transcript that, can we do a content analysis of that?
See, you have used one more important word.
Transcription.
If you cannot do that, then you cannot. See, right at the moment, if you are recording my lecture, then later on you can do the content analysis of my lecture, absolutely no problem.
Okay.
But if two people are talking and their talk is not recorded, you can't do the content analysis of that talk. That's what I was saying. But anytime whatever has been recorded, then of course you can do the content analysis, no problem at all.
Okay, so the focus group discussions can be, we can also do content analysis of focus group discussions as well.
Focus group discussion, but if it is recorded, the answer is yes. But if it is not recorded, then I don't think we can do the content analysis, because you do content analysis once the focus group discussion is over.
Right.
You cannot do the content analysis of focus group when it is going on. So because it has to be done later on, so you have to have a mechanism to record. There is some question coming in the chat. Let me see what is the question. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You can put your question in the chat box. I can see that. And if there is any other one, please go ahead. Otherwise, I proceed further. All right. Now, another one is, I'm going to the uses only. Another is that you can find the pattern. This is very important many a times. You know, when a particular word is repeated, now that word, when it is repeated, what is the word spoken before that particular word is very important. So all that aspect. So if you want to see some trend type of things, some pattern type of things, that can be done. or if you want to understand the intention, say what I was referring, that what happened in 25th of January on the Red Fort, you can see the intention of the people. What was the intention of the people when, and it was a group, when those people, they climbed and those people, they hosted their flag and things of that way. What exactly they wanted to communicate, and that is not easy, but that can be done if you want to do it. Then identifying this propaganda or the bias in the communication. Many times, when one political party is talking about their own people, and when the same person talks about another person from the another political party, you can see the type of the words which they are using, etc., etc. So it can be that. Then you can find out the difference in the communication, whatever the communication that you have in the text, you can find out the difference in what context one particular word has been used, as I was talking to you earlier. Then you can analyze the consequences of the communication content, such as the flow of information or audience responses. That when you are saying something, let's say there is a particular movie, it is being screened, and the people in that picture hall, they do the putting, they keep, oh wow, something like that. Then you can see this particular response, and you can see that how people have responded, whether they have taken it positively. They have, sometimes, you must have seen some people say shame, 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 or some people say very good, keep it on, things like this. So that are, if you are interested in something like that, then content analysis, of course, can be done. I find content analysis to be very, very difficult technique in comparison to the statistical analysis. Because statistical analysis, you have the data and you can, in fact, analyze according to your objective, and you can have the result, and you know what that result means. One particular quantitative data result, doing the analysis with the help of one only particular, will reveal one answers only. But in content analysis, one particular word may give different meaning to different people. And I personally feel in the court, whether it is Supreme Court or the High Court or any other court, the judges, one, lawyers is another, advocates, etc., they do the content analysis so minutely, and when they present the case, you can see how they present it. Okay, so that has great, the relevance, use of the content analysis there, and those people, they are doing it. Now I am going to tell you the 5 steps which people can use in order to do the content analysis. The step number 1 is you have to select the content, because that selection of the content depends upon you. Do you want to analyze the content from the newspaper? If from the newspaper, it is everyday newspaper, is it all newspaper of a particular day? Or is it the news printed on all the pages, or on a particular page, or at a particular type of the one? That has to be decided by the researcher who is doing it. The same newspaper, different people focusing on different content can do the research. It's not that from one particular type of a, say, news, only one particular, no, you can analyze in a different, so you have to select the content. Then another is that you have to have what is the question in your mind that you have, or the objective. So based on your research question and objective, you have to choose your text. Okay, so if you want to analyze a particular text, then why do you want to analyze? What are your objectives? So you objectives, and then if you want to analyze those one which are political, so then because objective is political, so you have to look to political. If someone organizes related to business, then if that is your objective, then here you have to see only the business related news. If somebody wants to analyze the stock related news, then if that is your objective, then you have to see the stock related one. Or if somebody wants to analyze related to murder, or related to theft, or related to violation of the, say, traffic rule. So this is what has to be decided by the researcher, and that is reflected in the objective. Then you have to choose. If it is related to the traffic violation, then you have to take those news only which are imbibing those type of information. Then another is define the unit or the categories of the analysis. How much, how many days, etc. that you have to do. Then you have to develop the rule for the coding. The coding is very important. And about the coding, I will talk in detail, but that's what you have to develop. And coding is not easy. Then another is, once you have developed the coding, then you have to code the text. Whatever the text you want to analyze, and whatever the coding that you have, rule you have developed, you use that rule to code the one, and then you analyze the result, and then you draw the conclusion. So these will be the steps that you will be following. Now, first step is that when you are selecting the content one wants to analyze, so this has to be chosen depending upon your objective. And one needs to decide these things. Number one, the medium. Okay. And the medium, you know, that is it newspaper, the speeches, the website, etc., etc. Okay. That is the medium here. Here, medium does not mean the language, because sometimes medium word is used for language also. Is it in English? Is it in Hindi, or things like that? Then another is that you have to see whether you want to see the opinion or political campaign or political speeches or marketing or sensex or what, all that what I was talking to you. Then you have to think of the criteria of inclusion. That what are the things which you want to include and what are the things which you don't want to include. That criteria has to be decided. That if you decide that newspaper article mentioning a particular event or a speech by certain politician, if that is the one that you are only concerning, that you will not bother about any other thing. So that's what has to be decided. Then the parameter in terms of the date range, that do you want it between this particular date to this particular date? Okay. Location, that do you want this for Mumbai or for Nagpur or for Delhi or for Amritsar or for which place? So all these type of the things you have to take a decision beforehand, because if you cannot take this decision, then you will not be able to select the content, and the variety is much. It is so much variety that the same newspaper, same set of newspaper, you can keep on analyzing it as many number of times as you like. Because the newspaper contains information, and that is qualitative in nature. I normally used to say that if you have a information in quantitative, you just give me the information in quantitative about few variables. I can analyze that particular data in number of ways, and from the same set of the data, I can produce many PhDs. I can write many papers, because that depend upon how you want to analyze. So in the media also, you can, if you have one set of the newspaper, you can keep on analyzing it, absolutely no problem. Okay, if you have friends, let's say if you are in Delhi, if you have someone, let's say in Chennai, then you may, request him that you analyze this type of news in the Hindu, which is very popular in Chennai, and Hindi here, whatever is the newspaper that you want to see. And then you can collaborate, and then you can write a paper on it. That can be done. So that's what one has to say. One has to select the content. And without selecting the content, my dear friend, it's not possible to move ahead. Then another is that if only a small amount of text, okay, that you want to take, then one may analyze them, and you analyze so small amount of the text, or if you want larger amount of the text, that all depends upon you. Many a times, if there is a book, you want to do the content analysis of the whole book, then it's not easy, my dear friend. It is very, very, very difficult, because the book contains content, so I can analyze it. So you can have a small one, but that you have to decide. Suppose you want to study the media representation of male and female politicians. This is the example that, in the media, whenever you must have seen on different channel, there are discussions. And when there are discussions, there are representation from different political parties. Okay. And you know that they are male and they are female. And our ministers, we have male as well as we have female. So we may like to just see. I remember it when Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister. Manmohan Singh photo hardly used to come in the newspaper. But right now, our Prime Minister Modi ji, you will find how many times you see his photo in the newspaper. In one particular newspaper, on one particular day, how many times it comes. Things like this. And therefore, that's what, if you want to, suppose if you want to do the analysis of, say, newspapers between 17 and 2017 and 19, it is too long. But if you want to do of a particular one, you can do. Because if you want to find the trend, for finding trend, it is important that you should try to see that type of news over many years or many months. Then you will be able, for example, what example now I am giving, it is not confidential, everyone knows it. There have been so many cases about the other things like rape, etc., etc. Earlier, hardly there used to be the cases of rape published in the newspaper. It is quite possible the number might have been very less, or the number might have been there, but people were hesitant to come to the newspaper. But now, of course, you have every day the newspaper. If you see, I personally feel that I get more negative news rather than positive news. But there was a time when there were more positive news rather than the negative news. So therefore, that you can decide that what you want to do, and that is possible. Now, if you want to have a large volume of the content, then one may choose how many newspaper you want to choose. That depends upon you. Do you want only 3? Do you want only 1? How many do you want? And when you want that, on which date? Is it for every day you want? Or is it Monday and Sunday you want? Or is it what? That all depends upon you. So that decision has to be taken as a researcher. I know it is becoming too complicated to you people, but my dear friend, I cannot help it. Now, once you have decided the content that which you want to take up for the content analysis, then we go to the second. And you have to define the units. And you have to define the categories of the analysis. Now, when you want to define the units, then one has to really talk about the level at which one wants to analyze the text, whatever you have chosen the text. And in this, what will you try to do is, you have to find out the unit of the meaning that is to be coded. For example, that record the frequency of individual words. Suppose you want to take one word, see how many times that word is coming there. So the frequency of individual words or phrases, okay, or the characteristics of the people, or the characteristics of the people who produce or appear in the text. Because sometimes some name might have been quoted, so how many times that comes? Or the presence and positioning of the images, that if the image of one particular person comes, at which place? Is it in the center? Is it in the corner? Is it big? Is it small? Things of that variety. Or the theme or the concepts. Now, all this has to be decided by you as a researcher. And that is what is the meaning of that units of meaning. So your unit of meaning may be word, your unit of meaning may be phrases, your meaning, the meaning of what may be images, it may be anything. It may be concept, anything that you have to decide it. And then a set of categories that one wants to use for coding. See, categories can be objective characteristics like female, the age of the female, whether he's a lawyer or he's a mother, or where he live, things of that variety. Or it may be some conceptual, like trustworthy, like corrupt, like conservative, like family oriented. These are the conceptual things. So one may be characteristics. So you may try to see the characteristics, or you may like to see the conceptual. So that it depends upon the person. If you want both, then you have to really decide, and then you have to go by that. As per the objective, one has to categorize based on gender and the concept of the trustworthiness if you want. Suppose a researcher wants the gender and he wants the trustworthiness, not the corrupt, not the conservative, not the family oriented. So that decision has to be yours. Then you have to get more detailed data that one may also code for other categories like age, like political party affiliation, like marital status, or like any other thing. If you want to do not want this, you want to remain, just focus on these two things and you analyze your content, you can do like this. But along with this, if you think, no, you should have some other characteristics side by side, and later on you may like to put up your result in terms of that, that also can be done. So you can decide beforehand, or as you read through the content, you may keep on deciding what more characteristics you want to add. Then the third is, once you have done that, then third is you have to develop the rule for the coding. And this is slightly difficult, but you are experts, so I don't think it is difficult for you, it is difficult for me. See, coding involves organizing the unit of meaning. Now, when you talk about the unit of information, it must be meaningful information. Okay? And then you have to organize that. So coding involves organization of that particular one. Otherwise, there is no need of coding. So more conceptual categories, it's important to clearly define the rule for what is and is not to be included, to ensure that all texts are coded. So whatever is the text, you should make sure that you don't want to code this, then you will not code that type of information. But once you have decided that you want to code for this particular word, then whenever that word comes, then you know the code. But when you want to code for a particular set of information, whenever that set of information comes, then the code which you have decided, then you have to write that particular code. And why coding is done? So that later on it is easy for you to count. Because when you count, then you can say how many times this has come, how many times this has come. So this is the data on the nominal scale. coding are important if multiple researchers are involved. If only one person is doing, then of course it is all right. You may do it the way you want to do it, but one particular, say there is content, and 2 people or 3 people wants to analyze the content. See, it is like this. Whenever there is an exam and the different teachers are evaluating the question paper of different people, but of one subject, say it is mathematics or say it is history, then it is important for them that for first question, what are the points which the student should write? And if he has written so many points, then he should be given this much marks. For second question, if these are the points he has written, he should be given this much. That type of rule is very, very, very essential. And if you follow that rule, then it is possible that the evaluation of one particular examiner can be compared with the evaluation of another examiner, because both of them have followed the same rule. So here also, if the 2 people or 3 people are doing, then coding will help them to a great extent, because then they keep the code, and whenever that is coming, then immediately they will, that information is coming, they will code it. So that is important. And when everyone is coding the same one, then naturally, whatever the information gets generated, it is reliable and it is transparent. Of course, subjectivity will be reduced. And in content analysis, sometimes the subjectivity is a very important aspect. So I will say 100% elimination, I don't know, but we can definitely reduce it to a great extent by following these type of things. Then in considering the categories like female politician, suppose this is the category, and one may decide which title, is it MP, is it MLA, is it governor, is it councillor, is it mayor, it is what? Is it the president, is it the spokesperson, etc., etc. So that you have to decide that if this is the category, then which one you want to code. Is it the MP or this, or is it something else? Then another is a trustworthiness. There are specific words, say like honest, reliable. You know, many a times the newspaper do carry such type of words when they are talking about a particular politician, or he's very hard worker, or he's honest, or he's this, or he's down to earth, etc., etc. So therefore, the trustworthiness, you can definitely try to find it out, and your category also you can find it out, and that's what you do under the 3 after coding. The fourth is that the coding which you have decided, now you have to code the text. And when you want to code the text, then you have to read the text. So one go through each text and record all relevant data in the appropriate categories. Whatever the categories that you have decided, those categories are to be used to divide that particular content into those classes or categories or groups, whatever you like, you can call it. And when you are doing this, you can do it manually. Or if you want, you can do it with the help of a computer. The choice is yours. There are some softwares which you can use. Okay. And if you want to do it manually, then actually you can count that those categories or those words or phrases, how many times those words or phrases have come in that particular line or in that particular complete one. The choice is yours. You want to do it line by line, or you want to do the whole, say, text. My suggestion to you people is that when you are doing, then if the text is not too large in the newspaper, the text is not too large, then before you do the content analysis, it's better to read the whole text one first and then start doing it. Because when you are reading it, then you have a holistic view of it. And then you start doing the analysis. That will be much better. Now, you can follow the coding rules and examine each newspaper article, etc., whatever that you have. Record the characteristics of each, because you want to analyze those politicians, as I have mentioned above. Then you should characteristics of each politician mentioned, along with all words or phrases related to the trustworthiness. So you talk about the characteristics and the trustworthiness. These are the two important points that you have to see. So whenever you read, you find out the characteristics of that particular person involved or mentioned in that particular news, and the trustworthiness that you can see. Then the fifth one is, once you have done that, then you have to analyze the result and you have to draw the conclusion. That is what is important. Now, in this one, that after completing the coding, then you have to collect the data and you have to see whether there is a particular pattern coming, particular sequence coming, particular the trend coming in. Now, I do not know whether, because I follow the news quite carefully, and say when after the lockdown, when the metro started, then on the first day, not many people were there. Then after that, it started moving. Now, if you see the vaccine, which started on the 16th of this month, now on the first day, see how many people were there, how many doctors and the nurses and the people involved in the medicals, they were there. The second time it decreased. On the third time, it slowly picked up, and now it is picking up. This is the trend which you can see it. So, you know, many a times that some of the newspaper, they themselves give the trend. That I have seen in the newspaper that they say, then such and such paper is read by so many people, such and such paper is read by so many, such and such paper is read by so many, etc., etc. So you can see which paper is read most of the time or by majority of the people. Now you can see also, see before pandemic, you know, the size of the newspaper, I normally read the Times of India. The size of the newspaper was very different. And after this, the size of the newspaper is very different. It has changed drastically. It has changed with respect to content coverage. It has changed with respect to the number of the pages which they used to print. There used to be a, you know, the another supplement used to be Delhi supplement or Gurgaon or something like that. That now is very, very small. So the trend you can see, and that will be, of course, used to draw the conclusion, or you can say finding, I don't mind. And here, if possible, you can use some statistical analysis. As I said, you know, in the newspaper, many a times, if you go to that business one, you see the stock is rising or the stock is coming down. Okay, so you can see the trend there, it is there. So you can have something like that. And then, of course, if you like, you use that in your writing. So that one can do, and one can make inferences about the creator, about the context, about the audience, and about the other things. Here, one example I'm taking, and it is that suppose results revealed that words or phrases related to worthiness appeared in the same sentence as a male politicians more frequently than they did in the same sentence as female politician. Now, if they say that trustworthiness of male politician and trustworthiness of the female politician, how many times are they coming? Are they coming equal number of times? If they come equal number of times, what do they want to communicate? If, let us say, female politicians are more trustworthy because that is coming more number of times, then what are we communicating? That is what exactly is important. So therefore, when a particular word comes and the frequency of its coming, when you are talking about it, and when you do the result, you give your finding, what are you telling to the people? The readers who will read, what will they get from your one? Now, if you watch your TV, then you see that on different televisions, whenever there is a discussion related to a particular aspect, there are political representatives. Now, I sometimes try to analyze on which channel how many females are appearing. And you find that not many females appear on the TV channel. Maximum males appear on the TV channel. What does it mean? You know, that gives a very, I may view it very differently, and somebody else can view the same information very differently. You can interpret your own way, and I can interpret in my own way. Okay, somebody may talk about the competency or something like that. Somebody may talk about that you are not giving the fair chances to both the sexes. Now, another news, if you have seen it in the US, you know, large number of the females are on the cabinet. And if you see in India, we are struggling hard. We are saying we should have this much reserved seats for the females and this much percentage, and still, of course, things are going on. So what you did, it all depends upon when you are analyzing that, then what exactly is your focus, and then the number of those things you mention, and then you can interpret. That from the results, whatever we have said here, that the trustworthiness appeared in the same sentence as male politicians are more frequently than the female. That means male politicians more trustworthy than the female politician. If that is the thing, then what does it mean? Then it means from the one national newspaper, one can say male politicians are more trustworthy than the female politician. Somebody may talk the other way around. Somebody may analyze the same content from a very different angle. Okay, that what type of, say, words which males are using for the opposite party and what type of words the females are using for the opposite party. So it depends what is your intent, what you have in your mind, and that you want to do the content analysis. And then so therefore that's all right, that one may conclude that the conclusion, and this of course will have some, see, there are two words. One word is effect, another word is impact. According to me, we should use the word effect in this particular case, because effect word has to be only in the experimental study. And here we should use the word impact, because whatever the news paper, they carry the news, there is a impact of that particular news, because it will impact wider portion of the population. And when we say effect, it is very small one. So effect refers to the narrow one and impact refers to the wider one. So I prefer to use the word impact, so you can find the impact. So that's what is important. So these are the one which have been taken. The 5 steps are there. Now I do not know how much time you permit me, because it's already 4:36 and I have another webinar at 5 o'clock. So how much more time, organizer, do you want to give me? Hello. If anyone is listening to me,
So, yes.
how much more time do you want to give? Because I have another webinar at 5 o'clock.
So, sir,
Go ahead. How much time?
Sir, we can wind up in 5 minutes and then we can have a couple of questions before we proceed.
I think I have completed one, then
Okay,
we can,
okay.
no problem.
Okay, fine, sir, fine.
Go ahead with the question.
So I request all the participants to kindly put their question in the chat box. Sir, meanwhile, I have a question, sir. Yeah, sir, can we say, that content analysis can be qualitative and also be quantitative at the same time? I mean, depending on the kind of approach and the way we are probably seeing the data in the content that we're going to analyze?
Nay, my dear friend, when you do a research, you have your objective. So that objective, either you are doing a content analysis, a qualitative analysis, or you are doing a quantitative analysis. Because for the same objective, and objective is a research question. For the same research question, the data which you have, you cannot simultaneously analyze the qualitative and quantitative, because both of will not give you the same result. They are two different things.
Hello.
Okay, sir.
You can definitely have both types of data, the qualitative and quantitative, but qualitative data must be analyzed separately and quantitative data must be analyzed separately, because there are separate techniques. You cannot mix them. It is not.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Go ahead. Any other question that is coming? If no question is coming, then thank you very much, dear friends.
Sir,
Go ahead.
so I have a question. So when we're talking about analyzing different kind of literature, so I wanted to know what are the things that we'll keep in mind when we'll be making a comparative content analysis of say a poetic piece and a film or something like that. When we're talking about analyzing their reactions, what kind of a comparison will we make?
Actually, the researcher has to decide the variable. That what is the variable which he has to or she has to keep in the mind while analyzing that particular content. Let us say when someone is analyzing the writing of a poet, and when there are poems written by, or there is a person, he has written stories. Now, when you are reading the stories, do you want to concentrate on that in the stories, the examples which he has given? Then is it what type of people he is giving example? Is he giving example of a person who has been doing very well in the life, a wealthy one, a poor one? So that has to be decided by the researcher. So the researcher has to really decide, and without deciding, the researcher will not be able to analyze the content. So, and if you want to see that in that particular poem, which words are being used, which are emotional, which arouse emotional in the people, because you see some of the pictures and some of the songs are such that when you really hear those type of songs, the patriotic songs are there, then you feel a different type of feeling you will have when you listen to those type of songs. And there are other romantic songs you hear or you listen to those songs, it's very different. So that is what exactly the type of the thing which as a researcher one has to decide. And the same poem can be analyzed by different people using different criteria.
So when we're talking about same poem being analyzed by different people using different criteria, how do you keep the biases at bay so that validity can be maintained in the first place and reliability as well?
Let me tell you, content analysis, you cannot talk of the objectivity, because you can look at a particular piece of say information, a very positive, somebody can see it very negative. So therefore there is nothing like objectivity. It is 100% is subjectivity. and whosoever will read will understand the researcher has seen it like this. So in content analysis, the most important that the reliability is there. It's very difficult. Objectivity is very difficult. It is subjective in nature. So you can't make it objective. To make objective, you have rules.
Sir, there is a question from Mona Gupta. She's asking if do we need operational definitions of the unit, or we need to define the words? We need to have the proper definition of the words, or we can go around with the operational definitions.
No, see, the thing is this, whatever the words are coming, the same word, if used in one particular sentence, may give a very different meaning. And when that word is used in another context, will give a very different meaning. And that is done many a times. So you have to take a decision that for this particular word, which meaning do you want to have it? So that operation definition, you have to decide. And then you see whether that meaning is reflected when the person is using that word in that context. If no, then you will not count it. If yes, then you will count it. That's what has to be done.
Okay, sir, there's a question. There's a question.
Followed with the same question. In case if we define an operational definition, then in that case, instead of quantifying, I think we are again qualifying the data as in not in numbers, but in terms of, justifying that this is what we're looking for.
No.
So quantify, yeah.
Let me tell you, okay, whenever you have a variable, in science, the variables are such that they have one particular definition. But in social sciences, the same word may mean something to someone and someone else to someone.
Yeah, semantic barrier, yes.
So, sir, I think this will be our last question for today.
No, let me answer at least this question which I am answering.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Or if you do not want me, then perfectly correct.
No, sir, I'm really sorry. Please carry on.
So therefore, let me complete that first. And then later on, I have already said, I know I have to go. So I was telling you, so the operational definition, what you write, I don't know whether you understand the operational definition.
Yes, sir.
That particular word you are defining in such a terms which you can observe, and whatever can be observed can be measured. That is the meaning of operational definition. Right. And once you give the operational definition of the word, then your task becomes very, very easy, because you know what you are looking for. And that's what you have to do it if you have a operational definition. And one particular word can have as many operational definitions as there are researchers. It is not that you have to, if I say reasoning, somebody may define reasoning in one way, another person may define reasoning in another way, another person may think of reasoning in another way. So therefore, these are the words which have multiple definition, multiple reasoning, and multiple meaning and multiple operational definition. So that's what you can do. And to make your content analysis precise, it's better to have that definition and then continue with that. Okay, there are some other questions are there. What all statistical tools are very different, dear friends. There is a t-test, there is one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, three-way ANOVA, one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, correlation, partial, something like that. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm very sorry, but we have a time constraint.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of DME, I would like to thank everybody who joined this FTP. I would especially like to thank Dr. Sansanwal and Dr. Pramod Gupta, who helped us organize this. Thank you so much. Hoping to see you all tomorrow.